something that I've been recognizing more and more about myself of late is that I'm very much preoccupied with aging, the passing of time, and the irrecuperability of such, if that even is the correct pronunciation. Irrecuperability, whatever, we'll just leave it with the first one. I'm not going to go into one of these stutter fests. And this concern of mine, many, when I express it to them, they deem it to be wholly unwarranted and kind of, I guess, a cliche or a just more of an internalization of societal trends, really, of being putting an undue degree of importance upon youth, overvaluing youth and undervaluing all that occurs after youth, which is the majority of one's life if they live out the course of their life and aren't killed or die prematurely from disease or misadventure. And yeah, I mean, I must admit it is kind of a cliched thing, right? And it's sort of smirked and looked down upon by people much older than myself when I voice this concern about feeling that I'm becoming old, right? When I'm not even yet 30, but yet still somehow feeling that I'm over this kind of hump, right? That I guess, for better or worse, the most, propitious years are behind me now. In terms of at least energy, enthusiasm, opportunity, and these things, I guess, are more specific, I suppose, to my own situation, my own sensibilities. This isn't going to be true for everyone, right? But I feel it very much so to be for myself. For there was all those things, those qualities that I outlined were very much so in abundance in the past and are more or less wholly absent now at this point, or are just kind of empirically seem to be progressively dwindling, becoming less and less over time. And I can only conclude that such is going to continue to be the case. I mean, it's reasonable to assume that that is what will happen, right? Until ultimately nothing remains and I'm just this empty husk just kind of wafting about hither and thither, compelled by circumstance to act or not act in whatever way is demanded of me. I become an effect rather than the agent of such. I'm at the mercy of others and of my environment, which I guess in a way I always was, right? At least the way I see it, in terms of not regarding free will as something that is actually something that exists. But of course, when I was younger, it didn't appear to be that way. My actions felt more meaningful, more deliberate. There was more power and conviction to them, even if it was conviction that was misplaced. And I guess I was just sort of drunk on spunk, right? Spunk drunk, the spunk of youth. Young, dumb, and full of cum, as the saying goes. I was never really like that, though. I was a very kind of restrained, sensible, prudent individual. Maybe to my own detriment in many cases. And I was also very impulsive in a lot of other ways. I don't know. And I think not only is this based just on my own subjective, lived, immediate experience, right, of thinking that in many ways my life is sort of over. It's also kind of understanding what is occurring on a biological level to one's physiology, not just my own, but just physiology of the Homo sapien universally. Past the age of 25 or so, we have very much peaked. Physical development has, I guess, more or less ceased. The prefrontal cortex has finally reached maturation, and one's personality is essentially concreted. Neuroplasticity has sort of the capacity for such has sort of very much leveled out and is kind of at that point beginning to the capacity is going to decrease as time goes on, and just so in the same way as the capacity of the physiology as a whole, everything is now in a state of disintegration. Slow, of course, at first, but for the majority, of course, aging is not a hard and fast rule for how fast or slow the aging process is going to occur. It's different for everyone, dependent on genetics, environment, lifestyle, and so on. But regardless, it's going to begin. The body is going to begin to degrade, become more susceptible to disease, and as time goes on, this just speeds up. The process of decay is an exponential one, and our cognitive faculties, they also degrade. That's all just downhill, right? And I see it in myself, I feel it in myself. There's really no getting around it. I am not, age isn't just a number, right? Of course it is just a number, but the aging process goes along with it. Undeniably so. And for myself, it was kind of uncanny. Like, at the age of 25 or something, it was just like this tap of exuberance had just been abruptly just turned off. It was no longer connected to this fountain of youth. My free trial or whatever had been suspended, and I was unable to extend it. That was wholly beyond my means. And I started getting all sorts of injuries, and my just interest in things began to decrease. There was no longer this sense of ambition or purpose in this sort of mystical sense, right? That only young people, naive people can have. Of course, older people have this too, but it's more common in young people. This feeling like one is on some sort of divinely ordained mission, that there's something, some secret or whatever to be discovered, that there's somewhere to go, people to know, someone to be, right? To quote Lagotti. And my, I guess, ignoble discovery was that there was nowhere to go, there was no one to know, and there was no one to be. It wasn't just something that I stumbled across conceptually and considered as such. It was something that I arrived at viscerally in my own experience. And I think maybe once people have, once I have seen that, the sensation is that I can't return to a point of unseeing that. Can't regain that naivete. I'm in a sense ruined now. Any time I try and re-engage life with the same degree of interest, fascination, regard it with the same level of importance, part of me is watching over my shoulder, right? Watching me, just scrutinizing me, saying, "What are you doing? What are you doing? You fucking deluded piece of shit. You're wasting your time here. This is stupid and pointless, and it's going nowhere." And, sure, people might say that this is the product of something like depression, or I'm just being too hard on myself, or I've internalized others' opinions. But whatever the case may be, this voice, they're not wrong. I can't really disagree with them. It's an accurate assessment, as far as I can tell, of what life here in this place entails. At least this is just the way that I have fallen prey, you might say, to conceptualizing such. I'm very nihilistic about all of this. Even though at the same time I'm very much inclined to I'm very sympathetic to these more elaborate metaphysical ideas, concepts, and so on of what is going on here. I still, even in the midst of such, in times of embracing such, I still ultimately regard all of this as wholly pointless and, as Lagodi puts it, malignantly useless. And that all of this would be better to have not been. And, yeah, I think all of this at the same time as I've held these, subscribed to these Gnostic ideas that I've talked about here and there. All of this is still trash, basically. It's not just that if I'm looking at it from this conventional Gnostic point of view, that the dominion of the demiurge, this world, is garbage. It's that the whole edifice, this whole series of emanations, of aeons proceeding forth from the monad that primordial, ineffable, unknowable source, the secret father, or what have you. It's all garbage, and would be better to have not been. I don't know, perhaps I would think otherwise, alright, if I were in some heavenly realm, actually experiencing, just in this boundlessly blissful state, I wouldn't have these sort of ideas, I wouldn't be expressing these sort of sentiments, it wouldn't make sense to do so, right? I would be, my mind, if it even makes sense to refer to someone in such a state as having a mind, would be completely dulled by bliss. I would be rendered insensate by bliss. Bliss would be all that I was, and I would be no distinction from the bliss. Which is why, it's a lot of people in spiritual circles and whatnot, they say that, well, this is why duality is necessary, so that we can know that we are experiencing bliss. We have to have experienced the opposite to bliss in order to value bliss and to know that we're actually experiencing bliss. Or otherwise it's just, we're just not able to be aware of such because it's just, there's no basis for comparison. But my position, I guess, is just, at least from this POV that I'm in now, is that why have a basis for comparison when one could not have any kind of basis at all? That nothing would be the ideal state, always, even if such is an impossibility. Okay. Those are just my morning thoughts. Alright, thanks for listening.